Sheldon, welcome aboard to the show today. So happy to have you.
All right, thank you so much. Glad to be here.
I wanted to start a little bit with a hard question, maybe a personal one. What brought you into the healthcare staffing industry? What makes you get out of bed in the morning?
Oh my God. There might be a couple of different questions here. I was actually doing IT consulting work, started a company called ESOF Solutions, and it was going really well. And then 9/11 hit, nothing was moving. So we had a lot of people with master's and doctorate degree people, and we could not find any work for them. So we would bring all the sales managers from different offices back in Dallas. We sat down, we said, what's going on? And we were trying to figure out a way. We have finite amount of cash, and how do we use that cash to transition to something that might actually be more recession proof at that point? So we were thinking maybe we should think about going into healthcare because we always thought about doing IT in healthcare, but we didn't have the knowledge experience. So once we tried to go into the healthcare, trying to do IT-based solutions, uh, I can tell you what really occurred is that hospitals basically said, we don't have the experience. We're using these financial systems. You have experience with a different financial system. We're using these IT systems that you don't have knowledge and experience with. And we were running out of cash. So one quarterly meeting, we're all together, we're sitting down, and I actually was very frustrated. And I said, what do the hospitals want to buy? And the salespeople came back, too bad you don't have any doctors and nurses. And we went to the happy hour afterwards. And I'm thinking about it. Everybody's enjoying themselves. And I'm thinking, I'm going to go back to the office and I'm going to say that we have doctors and nurses. I'm going to change the contract and I'm going to deliver to all the salespeople. And let's see, because I'm thinking, surely that can't be true that they're looking for doctors and nurses. So I revised the contract, went back to the office, gave it to them the next day. And they said, all right, we have doctors and nurses. We can provide the facility. I said, perfect. Let's go do that. They went away. I want to say a few days later, in those days, everything was sent via fax machines. A few days later, one sales guy comes in and he goes, hey, Sheldon, good news. I have this contract. I said, awesome. When can we do this software? They said, it's not for software. I said, well, what is it for? He goes, they want to know when can they interview a doctor. I said, well, we don't have any doctors. They said, but you remember you said that we had doctors. And all the contract that were faxed out to hospitals got signed and came back. And then we thought about it and that this is interesting. If we could figure out how to find healthcare talent, we could get hospital experience. And if we got hospital experience, when the economy changed, we can go out and go back to do our IT business that we're used to. Because now we know that which hospital are good payers, we have relationship with them, and we'll sell IT-based solutions. So really, that's how the business started. It was not because we wanted to be in healthcare. It was because out of desperation, nothing was selling. And then actually from there on, we had to learn how to go recruit healthcare candidates. So it's really by accident. It was we were forced to get into the healthcare industry, not because we wanted to go do that.
There's when I was very young, my dad kind of shows me a list of 30 books. And he basically wrote, FDA for dummies, how to basically manufacture drugs, kind of simplified. And he asked me, how many books do you think I've written? Well, this is your website that we created for you. You're selling these books. So obviously, all of them. And he's like, well, the answer is none of them. So I just wanted to showcase the brilliance of testing demand, which is really what you did. You tested demand. You're like, okay, let's say we have this service. Is there demand for it? And then, obviously that exploded. So testing demand is such an incredible, I think, important aspect of entrepreneurship. But with that said, I want to go back to a different aspect. This idea of recession proof. Keep me honest here. We don't know the exact number, but approximately 80,000 missing jobs is the estimate. Maybe a little less, maybe more, who knows? Healthcare, whether you like it or not, we believe that for the foreseeable future, people will continue to get sick. That problem is never going to go away. Um, and that provides a sense of security for the businesses, but also for individuals who are looking to become healthcare professionals.
No, that's absolutely right. What's occurring is that colleges and universities cannot produce enough healthcare talent. Immigration cannot bring enough healthcare workers into this country to take care of our people because there's that much demand out there. As far as the eye can see, the demand is continues to skyrocket and supply for healthcare workers is low. So the gap continues to increase. So I think there's a massive amount of opportunity in the healthcare industry.
So I want to talk about the supply chain of new professionals. Where is the gap? Is it the fact that people don't want to go into healthcare because the burnout is horrific? You work your ass off. Is it that there's not enough universities to train these new professionals? Where is the supply chain failing?
I think it's all of it that you're talking about. We're talking about so many baby boomers are getting in. We're talking about our when Obamacare went into effect, so many more people got access to health care. You're talking about expansion of Medicare and Medicaid. So really, if we have jobs, we have health insurance, we use it. But there are people who never had healthcare insurance in their life, and they were given healthcare insurance. Their bodies were far more broken than you and I are because we can get the healthcare service when we need it. So they're using 10x more uh, healthcare. They're demanding healthcare 10 times more than what you and I would do. So the demand is very high. College and universities cannot produce enough. If you say they're new school, that they don't have enough spots available, if there's not a spots available, there's not teachers available. That's what I was saying earlier. Like, so we're looking for immigration to go help solve the problem. We're looking for more instructor, more schools, more students to come in. So it's like the demand is so high, there's just not enough supply available out there. And it's not because people don't want to be there. They want to be in there. And you're talking, most of the healthcare workers that exist in our industry are also fairly old. They're retiring. Okay. Like you were saying, they're burnt out. So they want to go back out. So they're looking for more flexible work because they don't want to work full time. And it's hard to find a little bit more flexible work like we can in some of the other industries.
And we're also trying to reinvent call it the supply chain inside of the practices, right? We're trying to think out of the box here. What was it? 10 years ago, every single time I was sick, I saw a doctor. I don't think I've seen a doctor in years. It's a nurse practitioner.
Yeah.
Bring us up to speed. What's happening in the industry? Honestly, I thought initially this is like, I don't want to see a nurse, I want to see a doctor. Now I am actually more happy, I believe, with my NP than the doctor. I feel like I get better service. But that's just an opinion of one person. What's happening in the industry? Is it good? Is it bad? Where might this lead?
I think that most of the physicians will say they got into the industry, got into this business to take care of us. And what's occurring is that they're doing so much documentation paperwork to be paid, and they have very little time available. So if they want to make a reasonable amount of money, they have to see a lot more patients. So that's why you and I are not getting the time that we need. Good news is that like physician assistants, nurse practitioners, so they're coming online. So they're able to absorb some of that responsibility. They have more quality time available to take care of us. So in a way, they're getting trained better as well. So that what physician assistants were doing or nurse practitioners were doing, they're relying on RNs to go do that. RNs are relying on LPNs to go do that. LPNs are relying on CNAs to go do that. So what's occurring now is that hospitals that cannot get enough RNs are saying, okay, I can use for every RN, I might need an LPN. For every LPN, I might need a CNA. And what's occurring is CNAs are saying, hey, I like this, I'm learning something new. LPN are saying, I like this, I'm learning something new. So I think facilities are looking for creative ways to go solve problems, get more people involved, something that they only a physician can do, but they know the nurse practitioner can do that. So physicians are saying, okay, you take that responsibility while I worry about more difficult tasks. So it's sort of interesting development that's taking place. So skill sets are being developed at all levels to go out there to help.
I feel honestly that I get better quote unquote service from my RN than from a physician because the physician, and maybe I just had bad experience, they're looking in their documentation most of the time. The RN actually spends time to get to know me. She knows me, I know her. It felt like an improvement. So I'm kind of happy with the situation. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of doctors' practices for a second. Um, Americans are very litigious, so insurance costs are high. That's a big concern. But now, recently, this huge cost of cybersecurity now is also coming into play, where not only can we make a medical mistake, but we can get hacked and kind of lose our shirt for reasons that we know nothing about. How are these concerns affecting the industry? Are you hearing practices saying this is an issue? And you come from an IT background, so I'm
Right.
wondering how is this impacting the industry? And this is sensitive information. Like nobody wants their healthcare information out there.
Right. I think that industry has figured out a way to address this issue fairly well. So I think that technologies, like if you're going to be in the hospital environment, like we do business with about 9,000 hospitals throughout the country, long-term care, skilled nursing facility, and hospitals. And they have a very good technology infrastructure in place. And if you're talking about sensitive information, like for example, we have 3 million healthcare workers sensitive information in our database. So the technologies do exist out there to keep that data safe and protected. Before it was fairly inconsistent. So now, like like if you're trying to do any business with a hospital and you're trying to get a healthcare worker out there, there are going to be like 60, 70 different documents you have to provide. As there's some sensitive documents you have to go provide. Eventually now the technology is such where you can encrypt these documents, get it over there in this kind of safe environment. Same thing when healthcare workers are submitting those documents to us, because I think we probably will get 3 or 5,000 new documents a day into our environment that are being uploaded. So I think that technology is the aspect that I'm not worried about anymore. Like I used to, but I don't think that that's a problem anymore because I think people have figured it out to go protect that.
I want to go back to a personal question. Yeah, assuming you have kids, what do they're thinking about their future, their career, what industry, what job to go. Are you recommending they go into healthcare? What are you suggesting to them?
I have one daughter. Um, she is in medical school, uh, but she chose that. I wanted to come and help me, but she didn't want anything to do with what I was doing. She wanted to go to medical school because I think that people genuinely, she cares about people and taking care of them. And now that she's in medical schools, because she's doing clinical, so she's out there visiting different locations, I can tell what she likes, what she doesn't like. So she can see good things that are going on in the medical industry and things that are not going on, that are not so good. So I can see she's the happiest when she's in taking care of patients. So if we go back to that world where doctors actually practice their profession, it'll be unbelievable. So I think that that's where eventually it's going to go as well. We're going to get people who are really good in taking care of us. They're going to take care of us. And things that they don't need to be involved with, something else is going to take care of that so they don't have to be involved. They'll free up their time to to help us.
Do you think that there's a need to change legislation? Is there a problem with the bureaucracies, with the insurance? Is there just too much overhead? What is causing the complexity of the system?
That's a pretty hard question to answer. We're trying to solve it in one particular way through staff DNA. Other companies are doing it other way. I think that I can see signs that there's legislation that's positive legislation that's taking place. For example, in California now, to take care of us, they're saying for every nurse, for every X number of patients, you have to have a nurse on staff. Because you're talking about a nurse, an LPN, CNAs, they're an expense to a hospital. Where a physician will bring in revenue, a therapist will bring in revenue, but not a nurse. Okay, nurse is an expense to them. So they're saying, how do we protect families? So they're creating rules that says that for the safety of us, that for every X number of patients, you have to this kind of staff. That's actually generating additional demand for us because if hospital can manage, if they can have a nurse manage 10 patients, they would probably push to go do that. Uh, but the legislation now says for every 5 patients, you have to have a nurse on staff. So that's increasing the demand as well. So I think there's some legislation that's very helpful to us. Others, we're not part of that. So I can't comment on that area.
And explain the dynamic between revenue and cost from a perspective of nurse versus doctor. I'm not sure that the audience is kind of familiar with that aspect.
Well, if you go in for a test, it generates revenue for the hospital. If you go talk to a physician, it generates revenue for the hospital. Okay. If you go to a therapist, it generates revenue for the hospital. So in those cases, when hospitals have a lot of demand for surgeries, for example, they are able to go get the staff either internally or externally to go fill that demand because they know if people are working, they're going to go out there and generate for every hour, every procedure they're doing, they're generating revenue. Okay. On the nursing side, they're not generating any revenue. That's safety issue more than anything else. So hospitals have to have clearly quite a bit of staff to take care of us when we're in the facility. But the nurse does not physically generate the revenue. It's the other procedures that generates the revenue. So, so usually when hospitals are looking for healthcare workers, especially RNs, they're doing that because they have so much demand going on in other areas that are generating revenue because they have to spend dollars for that expense to take care of us.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Sheldon. And I want to jump to a slightly different question. Do you see AI dramatically influencing the industry? Um, because on the one hand, yes, we this has been happening for years. We're seeing a lot of diagnostic innovation. We've had the promise of DNA based personalized for I don't know how many years. No, we haven't really seen that come large scale to fruition. Um, but on the other hand, like being sick is an incredibly personal thing where you need a person who can
Yeah.
check that, everything looks and feels. And is this going to change the industry dramatically, or is it just going to give us some nice new shiny tools?
Um, I think there's a big change coming, and I'll give you an example of it. So, few years back, about 6 years back, when we created the Staff DNA technology platform, what we were trying to find was initially we were trying to see how can we make it easy for people to find the right job. Because if you think about it, uh, if you are in this country and you're trying to find a job, you're going to go to LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Indeed, Friends and Family, and you're going to ask them, or you're going to look at their posts and they're going to say, these are the 18 jobs that are open for what I'm looking for. But not all jobs that you really qualify for, but what's available to you, what you know based on your network. You're being given a schedule, you're being given a pay package that you will work with. And you're talking about the most advanced country in the world. That's how we find the next employment. So when we were thinking about 20 years ago, we're looking for a way to change the entire industry. How do we bring more qualified people into the environment? How do we match them better so they can take care of us when we're at a hospital? We wanted to create something that actually where an employee could see all healthcare jobs in one environment, the details, the certification requirements, the scheduling, and build a pay package that best meets their family needs. So if they wanted to work a certain schedule, who says a nurse has to work a 12-hour shift? It's been going on forever. Why can't a nurse work a 4-hour shift? If they want to retire, let them go retire. And they say, you know what, 4 hours is what I want to go do. So I think that's what we created the technology. We said we want to make a tool available to employees to be able to find the job. And we wanted to create a tool available for employers to find their own candidate. So we wanted to do it in such a way where they could talk to each other in a very efficient, clean kind of way. And the idea was very simple, which is if we could accomplish doing that, nurse knows what jobs she's best qualified for. A hospital knows what kind of nurse they're looking for. Today, you and I are pitched jobs by a recruiter. Hey, you want to take this job or not? The recruiters really don't know that. So that's the step where we're at now. Now coming back to your AI question. So if you use our technology platform, you're going to be able to see the jobs you match to. But these are jobs that we're doing the matching for you. We thought about these are the 7 things that we need to verify before we match you to this hospital. What's occurring now is that we have so much data that's coming in. With machine language, all of a sudden, the hospital, the software is saying, Sheldon has 10 years of experience, and every time he goes to a large facility, he has a good experience. Every time he goes to a remote facility, he does not have good outcome because he doesn't like the job, the client doesn't want him back, but we have all that information. So now what's occurring is the machines are going to go out there, show you different jobs. Instead of us showing you the job that we thought you want to go see, computers are not going to go out there and actually show you the job that you best qualify for, where you're going to have the best outcome, best experience. And I think that's a dramatic change that's coming. eventually, if you think about it, if I just take one step further with AI, why search for a job? So Ari, let's say that you log into a technology platform, you look at the staff on the screen, it says, Ari, these are the best jobs you qualify for. I won't even have you have do a search because I will know that this is what you're really interested in. I think that's where the world is going. So I think the change that's coming is coming really fast. The tools that are available are are making people think of really creative solutions, and I think the entire world will change. It's a very short amount of time.
So you touched on a lot of really interesting topics. So we're going to have to break this down. One, I think there's an incredibly innovative concept behind, well, if you're hiring one person for one job, then you have way more constraints than saying, well, this one person can do different jobs, different customers, so to speak. So there's more flexibility on scheduling. So that creates a degree of freedom, so to speak, for both the hiring companies and the job seekers. There's something really interesting in that concept. The other thing that I love about it is this idea of transparency. If we have an information system that's in the middle, we have that degree of freedom. Now we can start to get more feedback about the candidates, but also the employment environments, right? Well, how what like almost like a Yelp, like rate your experience there. Um, Here's my question. AI, we love to love it because it can do amazing things. But on the other hand, this very old problem of garbage in, garbage out, right? If I'm an incredible professional, but the only information you have about me is a resume, and I'm terrible at writing resumes, I'm terrible
Mhm.
at marketing myself, the AI is going to crunch the data that the AI has.
Right.
How do we bridge that gap between the systems basically taking control and coming to conclusions that, maybe are often correct, but in the times that they're not correct, how do we bridge that gap and say, well, sometimes you need to give people second chances. Sometimes the person had maybe something personal, traumatic happening in that time, so the system, assumed some bad things about them. How do you bridge that humanity in AI when it comes to these systems?
Um, a really good question. Um, I think that if all I can do is suggest best options that are available to you, okay, and you as an individual are still making the decision as to you're interested in those jobs, for example, or not, right? So I'm not preventing you from not seeing other jobs that you might be interested in. So I think as long as the technology gives people options, make it easier, and then still have the ability to go out there, go outside of that, they should be able to go do that because they know themselves better. If facilities want to make an exception and decide to go work with me, they should have the ability to go do that. Think about what occurred with Amazon. A long time ago, Amazon started with they started suggesting products I should buy. It was really poor. They didn't understand me at all, that I was not interested in those products. Okay. Today is something very different. Or Apple, for example, used to suggest, because I love music, used to suggest the playlist for me. And it was off. But over a period of time, because Apple got more and more data from me, because they knew the music that I was listening to, how many times I was listening to, which songs I was favoriting, what playlists I was building, the list that they recommends me is more on point. So I think that the more data, because I think AI needs massive amount of data. So the more data it has, the better recommendations. And you're saying, what if it recommends something, but you still want to make an exception? I think the technologies need to allow you to be able to go do that.
My deeper concern is, are there situations where you're being skipped over because of technology? In healthcare, the situation is somewhat different because there's just massive demand for talent. But other industries, you might have 100 or 1,000 applicants for a role within minutes. So that's an example not applicable to healthcare, but it's an example where AI is basically filtering you out for some reason or another. So I think that's the future concern, right? When humans kind of relinquish control to AI to make these decisions, and that's a bad example, but there's other situations that might happen in healthcare.
No, you make a good point because I can say I can tell you that if a RN is doing a search on our technology, they'll see the job. They're going to scroll down the app. They're going to look at first few pages and they're going to apply to one of those jobs. So your point is valid. So if they didn't see the job, because you're talking about massive amount of job and one technology that's available, if they don't see the job, but I think that as long as we allow them to be able to search for the job that they want, instead of us showing it, that's what I'm saying. I think the technology needs to give the flexibility where they can actually find the job that they're looking for and apply to that. If it restricts you from doing that, then I think it's a problem.
Let's talk a little bit about this idea of transparency of the employers. We got some legislation here in Colorado and a few other states where you have to put the salary in the job description, right? You have to say what you're going to make. Um, I'm wondering, like, we have Glassdoor, right, where that works to a certain degree. I'm wondering about the future of employer transparency, right? I think this is a big concern for job seekers. Is this a toxic environment? Like, am I going to be treated well? Are the managers decent? What's the future here? Are you seeing any innovations in this aspect of the industry?
I love this is my favorite question that you're asking about transparency. If like when we first launched our technology, we were the first companies to show everything. If, for example, because in healthcare side, there's four types of jobs somebody can take. They can take a staff position, like a permanent employee for the company. They can go out there, pick up individual shifts, because if they're working full time, they want to make some extra money, they can pick up some shifts. They can do a temporary job, like a local assignment, or they can travel. Travel meaning you're leaving home here in Michigan and you're going to go to Florida for the summer and to help the facility out. And so we wanted to show all details about it, including cancellation policies. And we were the first company to go out there and show pay. So for every job, we show the highest pay available right from the beginning. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or woman, tall or short. We're the first company to show that transparency. And we allow people to go out there and build a pay package the way they want to build a pay package. So if they want certain benefits only, they select the benefits and it's just the pay. If they want travel allowance to get to the assignment, it is just a pay package. So we give them the money up front. So I think that's the biggest thing that's taken place. So we added nursing, we added allied professionals, we added physicians. In the physician side, I can tell you what you're asking for was really important because today, if a Baylor hospital wants to post a physician job, they don't show the pay. And for our technology, we won't post a job if they don't have pay because we want to make sure that for every job that we post out there, we show that. So I think transparency is really very important. I think all the legislations that are coming out are saying that it should be very transparent. And I think that that's where the world is going.
As an amateur economist myself, obviously, when you increase transparency, you increase market efficiency. So everybody should win, right? All boats
Right,
should rise.
right,
But on the other hand, your customer is the employer.
right.
At the end of the day, that's where the revenue is coming from. And when you're asking for increased transparency, you're basically telling your customer something that they might not want to hear. How does that work out? How do you kind of get over those humps of, well, you need to give this information even if you don't want to?
Yeah. So the staff unit client app designed for the customers, the tool that we give them is they can see, for example, whether they're paying their staff correctly or not based on the market conditions. They don't have any tool or technology like that today. So usually what happens if you're working at a hospital, or it could be any company, right? If you're a permanent employee at that company, over a period of time, it seems like the people who are working there are not getting as paid as people that you bring in from the outside. Okay. We wanted to give them a tool and technology that they could actually go out there, put a miles radius and search what the market is paying versus what they're paying so they can make better decisions. On the temporary side, so let's say there's some crisis going on, there's a shortage of nurses they want to bring in, so they might have to pay temporarily more dollars to go out to get the nurses. But what happens at the temporary, they don't adjust downwards. Like a gas price can go up, but when there's an abundance amount of gas available, the prices don't come down fast enough like it does when it goes up. So we're giving them tools and technology that they can see that. Also, I think that the reason I think that we've gotten so many awards for our tool and technology is only because Staff DNA made it very efficient from start to finish. How you find the job, in a very self-service based model. Basically, we let the employees find their own jobs, so we don't need as many recruiters. We let the hospital find their own candidates, so we don't need a lot of salespeople, making it very efficient. So that efficiency caused us to charge the customers less money and pay the healthcare workers more, and still make a living in the process. So I think that most facilities have liked the change that they've seen because they want to pay their permanent employees the market rates. They just have the tools and technology to make better decisions. And I think we just changed that for them.
What about this topic of, and I honestly don't know if this is as big an issue in the healthcare industry, but in other industries, these ghost jobs, people putting out jobs just to show that they're hiring, almost like an ego thing, for investment reasons, for marketing reasons, or just poor hygiene in the hiring process. You put out a job, you don't contact any candidates, 2 weeks, a month later. There's a huge emotional toll that goes into a candidate, a job seeker,
Yeah.
actually applying and time spent. How do you as a platform help to prevent that kind of let's call it bad behavior?
Um, it goes on. Is same thing exists in the healthcare industry as well. We're a we don't believe in that at all. In fact, the jobs that you will see on our technology platform are going to be real jobs. They're maintained 2 shifts a day, 6 days a week in real time. They're being added, subtracted, verified, real. When a candidate goes out there, search and applies, that job is a real job they're applying to, and I think that's the way the world should
How
work.
do
It
you
should
how do you
never be.
verify? What's the verify process?
Oh, because we have a team of people that verify for the facilities the updates. So we say it's a process that goes through where uh, additions, deletions, verifications are taking place real time. It's a fairly decent sized team, and they have software technology to help in the system. So if you take a look at a job today, let's say there's 7 openings someplace and there's one, there could be enough applications and they'll stop taking accept more applications. It controls all of that. I think that jobs should all be real. I agree with you. There's a lot of effort goes on. There's a lot of emotions behind it because you want to go out there physically. You spend time applying to it. You want to make sure that the effort that you put in was related to a job that you possibly could get, rather than a fake job or rather than an on-hold job, rather than a job that didn't exist, but you just want to create more traffic. So we're a strong believer on that. And some of our competitors don't feel that way, but we're a very strong believer on that.
Are you able to identify certain companies that are not responsive and kind of go back to the or maybe not putting out jobs that aren't real and kind of come back to them and say, hey, what's happening? This is an issue.
Uh, we tend to just market our product and services in a way where they can tell that we're very ethical and we're going to do what we say we're going to go do. So if you go use our technology, if the job is not there, it's because the job is not real. If the job is there, it is actually a real job. So I think that's how we do it. So we don't go out there and point out that these are the companies that are out there that are not posting real jobs.
So there's only one question, and our audience knows this, but everything here, you didn't get any questions. It's completely organic. There's one question that we ask all of our guests, and time flies, so we're already over time. Um, if you had to go back to 20-something-year-old Sheldon, what would you advise him?
Um, that's a that's a hard question. I didn't think about that you would ask me this question.
No, nobody
Uh,
answers it without a pause, so you're
yeah,
you're you're
because
in good company.
okay, because I would say that long time ago, I want to change how the business was being done.
Hmm.
Okay. And I could see in the staffing industry, because that's the most important industry, because work is so important for people and their families. If you have a really good job, you love working there, you know you're going to be happy, you're going to do good work, your family's going to be happy associated with it. You know the client that you're working for, employer is going to be very happy, right? So that was really important because our industry has not changed in like 80 years since the Kelly Girls Services days, right? So I think that we want to create and build something that was very different that would add value. Because I think that if you think about it, if we're the most advanced country in the world and how difficult it is for us to find the right job, the right schedule, the right pay, that best meets our family needs, if we could create a gift to the world in Europe, Asia, somewhere where they basically have to take the job that they're being offered. If we create a tool and technology that could do that, I think we'll have changed everything. So I think that we've been on a mission to go do that for a long time. And I think that we made a lot of progress. I wish we could have just done that faster.
I think a lot of people who are kind of ingrained in the industry tend to forget how emotional and difficult. And at the end of the day, a job is what pays for food on the table, for your mortgage. It is an incredibly, incredibly important mission.
All right.
Sheldon, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you so much.